Here's 2 words I bet you never thought you'd hear from Sony. I'm sorry. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PS Ready, my channel all about PlayStation. I'm switching up the camera angle for one video just to see how it works. It's so cold here. It's like negative 10 degrees. I need to do something creative here in my little basement space that I've got set up. So yeah, I broke out my camera I bought to record my car over the summer and this little microphone, and we're just going to see how it goes. In addition to what I just mentioned, we're talking about how there's a huge departure that just happened at Sony and the timing couldn't be worse, and does this mean the end for physical games? Let's jump into the first news story, though. This is coming from Kind of Funny, the people who used to do Podcast Beyond, which I loved. Then they made Kind of Funny. Now they have Kind of Funny Games. They do daily podcasts, and recently they had Shuhei Yoshida, which was awesome because he's retiring from PlayStation. He has had a long career there doing tons of great stuff. He basically was a game scientist. Go around and play a bunch of games. He'd talk to studios, see what they were working on, and if he saw something that he thought was cool, he'd sign it to PlayStation. At first, he was running the whole first-party operation, so basically what Herman Hulse was doing. Then he kind of got demoted in the middle of the PS4 generation, kind of coinciding with Sean Layden leaving and Jim Ryan coming over and greenlighting all those live service games. I'm sure he didn't want to do it because he has a great eye for great games, and that's probably why Herman Hulse got his job. He was then demoted to finding indie games to sign for PlayStation, and now he's retired. He's retiring at a really bad spot for Sony because they could use his great eye to find these great games. But the reason he is saying I'm sorry is because Greg asked him about the PSVR 2. He was like, yeah, I'm giving you the floor. You want to talk about it? Anything you want to say? And the 2 words that came to mind for him were I'm sorry. He talked about how he wanted it to be a PlayStation 2, where PS1 did pretty good. It launched at a pretty high price point, but then, they had to lower the price pretty quickly and sell it with bundles and everything like that. PS2 absolutely exploded. Still the best-selling console, was not beaten by the Switch. He wanted the PSVR 2 to be that moment for that hardware platform, and clearly it wasn't. Not for a lack of great games, though. There were some great games for the PSVR 2, whether it's stuff like Gran Turismo 7, Resident Evil Village, the list goes on and on. But the problem was that the biggest problem with that headset was already solved 2 generations of Oculus Quest ago, which is it has to be connected to the PlayStation 5. I think no matter how good the hardware is, how light it is, how great the screens are in it, how awesome the room tracking is, how great the graphics are on the games, people are willing to make the sacrifice in graphics to not be tethered to a console. Even if the usability of it is not that much better than what you get out of the PSVR 2, it feels like it's that much better because not being tethered to your PC where you can move around and do whatever you want. That makes it so you feel like you can do anything, and I feel like that's a huge reason why the Quest 3 is doing as well as it is. And the Quest 3 is a huge jump over the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. It feels close to what you get with the PSVR 2. Not quite the exact same, graphically speaking, but in terms of interacting with it, it is exactly the same. And even though I can get games like Metro Awakening on my PSVR 2 and on my Oculus Quest 3, it's just a no-brainer purchase to get it on my Quest 3 because I can just throw the headset on, I can play the game for as long as I want, I can have a good time. If I take the headset off, I don't gotta have a big cord, I don't gotta have a big cord, I don't gotta, move everything around in my TV space where I have my PS5 set up. I literally have it right here on my little stool. And then I put it on, I have this whole space of area to play with it. That doesn't work with PSVR 2. So, the convenience factor is massive when it comes to the Quest 3 versus the PSVR 2. And it's weird because Sony's been using all this stuff to build out the PS ecosystem to have multiple devices. They have games on PC. They have the PlayStation 5. They're still supporting the PS4. They announced that they're going to support the PS5, the PS4, and the PS6 when the PS6 comes out. They're working on a handheld that's going to play PS5 and PS4 games. It would be perfect to have a standalone VR headset that could play PSVR games, even though it would be heavier. I think if they kept the great screen technology and everything that they developed, it could be awesome. I don't think they're going to make a PSVR 3, which is a bummer because PSVR and VR as a whole is at the same spot handhelds were at when they pulled out the Vita and stopped supporting it overall and stopped making new games. Like then we saw the Nintendo Switch, it exploded the handheld market. Then you got things like the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally. This handheld market couldn't be more healthy, and Sony is nowhere to be found except for the PlayStation Portal. With VR, there's the Oculus Quest 3, but but there's also a standalone headset coming from Valve that they've been working on for years. And if that's a similar situation to how handheld went, it's going to be another space that finally blows up, and Sony is nowhere to be found. So it's nice to hear Shuhei apologizing for the mistakes with the PSVR 2, but yeah, I'd like to hear more talk from Sony, some admittance of mistakes when you're canceling multiple games. And as we're about to talk about, people who have been there for decades are leaving. There needs to be more communication between Sony and their fans. Like, we're happy to defend you. You just got to make sure we feel like we should be defending you right now. Like, tell us that there's going to be first-party single-player games to replace all these live service games you canceled, and I feel like that would go a really long way. Anyway, that brings me to the second news story here, which is that there's a high-profile departure going on at Sony right now that could not be happening at a worse time. So Ted Price, the guy who's led Insomniac for a very long time, it was announced that he is retiring from Sony and that he is going to be replaced by 3 people. They're taking their whole strategy of replacing Jim Ryan with 2 CEOs, Herman Hulst to do games, Hideaki Nishino to do hardware. They're extending that into their first-party studios now with Insomniac. So he's being replaced by 3 people. One of them is like the creative of the brand. He's like the guy who oversees all the different games they work on, talks about the brand of Insomniac, X, Y, and Z. The CFO is going to be one of the co-CEOs of the studio, so he's going to handle the money. And then you've got someone who handles the creative process, the writing team, and everything like that. I think it's smart. I think not having a leader at the top is not wise. You need a good leader to kind of guide these people into a unified vision, but I mean, it's really hard to criticize Insomniac because they've been carrying the PS5 generation on their back, and that's why I think this is the worst possible time for Ted Price to be retired. The guy who made it to let the PS5 launch with Spider-Man Miles Morales. Then, just a few months later, we got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And then a couple of years after that, or less than a couple of years after that, we got Spider-Man 2. I mean, 3 of the biggest first-party games to come out in the PS5 generation were from one studio, and that was under his leadership. And now, all these games are getting canceled. Ben Studios games, canceled. Bluepoint's God of War, a live service game, whatever the hell that was going to be, canceled. The Horizon MMO, thankfully, canceled. We need first-party games to kind of fill in the gap that's going to be left by that because they weren't working on multiple games. They're all going to be starting over from scratch. And then this whole problem we've had this entire generation where there just haven't been enough games, it's going to be exasperated, and we're just going to have to wait for the PS6 generation to finally get some first-party games outside of Ghost of Yotei and Intergalactic and Venom and whatever else is being worked on, like Wolverine or whatever. I don't know. It's a weird situation over there at Sony, and I just think they need to take a step back, reorganize the entire thing. Like, have someone, whether it's Hideaki Nishino or Herman Hulst, go to every studio and say, what the fuck are you working on? Show me exactly what you're working on. Don't gussy it out for investors or anything like that. Show me it in the state that it's playable right now, and they need to make hard judgment calls on whether or not that's smart. They have all these great franchises, whether it's Resistance, Infamous, Killzone, Motorstorm, Gran Turismo. Make a new Gran Turismo. I don't know, make a spin-off where you can play as a street racer or something like that. They have Uncharted. They have all these great franchises, even from 2 generations ago, that are just languishing. I mean, people really want remakes of the original God of Wars. Like, they should be greenlighting this stuff that's small and they can make fast so that they can get first-party games out there that support the people who bought the PS5, but then they don't got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on these first-party games. Like, go back to the PS3 era mentality where you were just throwing anything at the wall to see what would stick and then turning that into franchises. Like, it's not really a mystery to solve because they've already done it. They just need to do that again. I hope this results in good stuff. I hope this leadership shakeup is a good thing overall, but with everything that's been happening, I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. I'm not dooming. I'm just like, please prove me wrong, Sony. Like, I know you can do it because you've done it in the past multiple times. We are not at the PS3 level yet, but you're getting there with the PS6 launch. So recover while you still can. Anyway, that brings me to the third topic of today's video, which is physical games. We have been through the gauntlet when it comes to physical games. Like, it has been not great because most people are buying digital games, and I am buying physical games. And let me see if the camera found. Oh, it is. It is following me right there. There's a lot of my physical games. I have even more upstairs, but I've been building out the library of games for my PlayStation 5 this generation with physical pickups of games I already own because I want Sony to know that I want physical games. But there's a thing that is happening in the world right now that's not really their fault, and it is tariff. If you didn't know, there's a new president here in America, President Trump. He's back for round two, and one of the things he ran on was tariffs. If you don't know what a tariff is, the simplest way to explain it is it's an import tax. So if you have a device like a PlayStation 5 that's made and manufactured in China and or Japan, once it's shipped here to be sold, importing it into the United States results in a 25% or so tax, or whatever Trump's people decide to make the number. So he's been talking about giving Mexico and Canada 25% tariffs, which would mean if we were importing something from Mexico or Canada, we get a 25% tax. That is usually passed on to the consumer. So it's not like Sony is going to pay that tax, we would pay that tax. And one of the biggest places in the world to produce physical discs is Mexico. So when the discs are printed to be sold here in the United States, they're printed in Mexico, they're imported here, they've got the ESRB rating on them, and then there will now potentially be a 25% tariff if that actually happens in February, which is what Trump is saying. So it might actually happen. Now that would be not great for us consumers for a few reasons. First of all, if you increase the cost of printing a disc by 25% with that tariff, they're probably going to pass that on to us, which would either make physical games more expensive here in the United States, or it would make them make physical games games to match that, because why wouldn't they? They have a reason to increase the price of games. They're probably going to do it. If people start having to pay 25% more for disc-based games, they're probably going to start buying digital games more and more. It's one more nail in the coffin that has 99% of the nails already in it. So that could definitely accelerate this future that all the game publishers and hardware manufacturers are accelerating towards, where they don't want discs anymore. They want everything digital so they can eventually get to cloud streaming only, so they can control everything you're doing in the game, whether it's single player, multiplayer, or whatever else. Now, this has not happened yet. I don't think it's worth losing sleep over just yet, but February is right around the corner, and if these tariffs go through, I would expect to see some sort of price increase on physical games. And at that point, I mean, I don't really know what we can do outside of making sure we always buy physical games. I'm doing my part. I showed you my little shelf down there where I have all my physical games. I've even bought multiple double copies of games. I just ordered GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 because I've been playing those on my PS5 lately, digitally, of course, because they were so cheap, but I wanted physical copies to show my support. That's what you got to do. You got to increase the percentage of physical games versus digital, and the only way to do that is to make sure you buy physical games. But yeah, things are getting weird and scary, and for us gamers out here, I'm here reporting with my little microphone, like as if I'm on local news or something. I hope this was cool. I hope you enjoyed this new camera angle. Again, please let me know down in the comments below. But yeah, this is my midweek update here on PS Ready. Subscribe to the channel and set your notifications to all if you haven't already. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and stay on. It's so hard to do that with this little mic in my hand, and I'm like really close to it, like a foot from it. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching and stay.
이 위쪽으로 길이 있어. 그 앞에 캠프도 있고. 좀 들르자. 나도 헤드셋 좀 벗게. 위에서 나는 소리 들었어.
나도 들었어. 준비.
리프트 위 열차라. 이것도 만만찮아 보이는데.
올라가서 살펴보자.
What?
난 가만해. 열차와 관련이 있을지도 몰라.
그래. 다시 한번 열차를 살펴보자.
Thank you.
이곳 아래에서 코어의 신호가 감지되고 있어. 아무래도 상하수도 시설을 지나야 할 것 같아.
또 하수도야? 몸이 젖는 건 피하고 싶은데.
여긴 상하수도 설비 위에 교통망을 넣은 구조라서 말이야. 내키지 않는 다른 단들을 이게
이건 단순한 노이즈가 아니야. 왜 강화스쿼드 채널로 이런 소리가?
네이티브 레벨로 통신에서 내키는 무리일 텐데.
노이즈와 알파코어의 네거티브 패턴이 일치하고 있어요.
대체 저 밑에서 무슨 일이 벌어지고 있는 거지?
직접 확인하는 수밖에. 서두르자.
어쩌면 강화부대 생존자일지도 몰라요.
알겠어, 릴리. 서두를게.
릴리, 내 신에서 나가줄래?
시살.
뭐? 먼저 간섭한 게 누군데?
그만. 집중하고 내려가자. 여기는
와, 여기 좀 복잡한데? 엘리베이터를 타고 올라가야 저 문으로 나갈 수 있겠어. 갈 수 있는 길은 왼쪽과 좌측. 일단 통로부터 살펴볼까? 이걸 동동의 위층으로 수 있어.
표정 속에 찾아갑니다.
Fuck this. Seriously, you still hit me? Bitch. Yeah. Mad Sailor. What's this? Daily mascot. I don't know what that is.
구했다. 이제 아저씨로 가보실까?
Wait. No, it won't let me see what that is. Gotta go to the top. What's this? Damn it. shit. Damn. Oh no. Where does that put me? Fuck. Do I have to do all that shit over again? I guess not. So I got this outfit for me to steal. So back. I want to wear that outfit. Let me go back.
점검이 필요.
Oh shit.
We gotta talk. We gotta talk. We had this little gag going on for a while, specifically stating very obvious things. It's time for me to actually have to talk about this because you know what? I think there's things that need to be put out into the open and talked about, chat. So I've always made the joke that the PlayStation 5 Pro is an FF7 Rebirth Pro, constantly. And as soon as the PC version comes out, it's like, oh man, I'm just going to destroy my PS5 Pro. And yes, what happened was I destroyed a PS5 Pro and I berated it. And I made fun of it and I spit on every part. And then somebody told me, what about part 3? And I was like, shit. So I drove to Target and I bought another PS5 and secured for part 3. In case part 3 is like exclusive, I'm like, okay, so I got another PS5 Pro. We're good. And then I realized, wait a minute, is that bitch made shit? That is bitch made shit. Well, I destroyed that one. Somebody then told me, but it's the 10th anniversary of Bloodborne. Did you forget that conversation about Bloodborne coming back? And it being like the best way to play it. I'm like, shit. So I went back to Target and I bought another PS5 Pro. And that's
Oh my God.
So what I do now is I take the PS5 and I say, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm really sorry that the whole reason we were here was that you were supposed to be the FF7 Rebirth machine, at least for a small period of time, and it went away. Well, poor PS5 Pro. So all I got to say is kiss your homies and hug your PlayStations, chat. You got to do it. You got to show deep love to these multi-billion-dollar companies and their weird hardware units. You have to do it. You have to love your Xbox. You need to fondle your Switch. You just have to do it. And then kiss your homies. I'm here to reveal something that is going to be shocking and striking to everybody. And it's a very large majority of you guys. I never destroyed a PS5 Pro. And I know this is disappointing to many people. I know it's really, I think, genuinely dishonest of me that I would say that. But it's true. I had never actually destroyed a PS5 Pro. My plan was just to have one and for it to just sit in the background and exist. I'd be really upset that something could cost that much, be that expensive, and offer only so much of a marginal upgrade. But, you know, I never had any plans to actually destroy them. I didn't buy 3 or 4 PS5 Pros either, and I do not kiss my homies, much less my own consoles. I'm sorry. What I do have to tell you is the amount of people that thought I did was maddening. Drove me to absolute madness. To the point where it's like, well, people are taking this seriously, so I just have to push the joke further and further and further and further and further. I just had to keep going. There was no way to stop. Which leads me to the topic of today's conversation, which this entire thing was supposed to be funny. Console wars. A lot of people have 100% labeled me as like an Xbot or a PlayStation whore or all those kind of things over the years. Admittedly so, because in moments of triumph, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, let's go. These guys are kicking ass. Good shit. And admittedly, like a little bit a little bit more aggressive towards things like Nintendo. I will say personally, for anybody that's wondering where my stance is on this situation or anything like that, I naturally sort of gravitate towards underdogs. You know, the Virtua Fighters, the Soul Calibers, like that kind of stuff. I naturally gravitate towards huge efforts from like really pioneering individuals that are trying to do something unique and different from what the other people are doing, and there's at least an effort being put in there. I love competition, is what I'm trying to say. So, would it surprise you that, like, I know a lot of people have allegiances to shit, because I remember feeling that. I remember feeling deeply insecure when I was younger that I owned a Sega Saturn or some shit, right? And I didn't want to wait for an N64, and really, like, kind of attaching your identity to a piece of plastic and being insecure about another system being better, right? Or something like that. The same thing happened to like the PlayStation to the N64. I remember being there, dude. And in fact, most of that stuff was a part of a marketing campaign. They were trying to get you against each other so that kids would defend and then manipulate / encourage / influence other kids to want to get in on that stuff. And with a little bit of perspective and hindsight, my God, do I absolutely hate that shit now. I detest it. I think it's gross to the point of which it's almost hilarious. But to boil down this conversation,
Oh, shit.
I like my PS5 Pro because it gave me FF7 looking like really good. Not everyone gets to experience that, but I have to make a mention. I like my Xbox One. I haven't had many reasons to love my Series X. I like my Switch for a while too. And then there's times when I look at those systems and I really don't like them. I really don't. Almost that I don't have any allegiance to anything right now at all. To which the console war stuff is like just so funny that you're trying to platform what is effectively the hardware of like a multi-billion-dollar company against the hardware of another multi-billion-dollar company. Android versus iPhone bullshit. It's such an uninteresting conversation to me. And to be completely honest, dude, these things don't do anything for you unique than what is out on the market right now. Like, at least there was something in the PS3 era where it could run apps and stuff, and you could have Netflix on it and yada, 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 when TVs couldn't entirely do that yet. But now it's just like, your consoles just run the games, you know? They just operate in that fashion. The only time I truly feel where it's like, oh, I get why people bought this, and I bought it for that reason, outside of games. That was a PlayStation 2. And a PlayStation 2 was straight worth it because the next generation of video was upon us and you had DVD capability. So to me, it was like, oh, I get it, dude. I get why people and myself, I didn't buy a PlayStation 2 for Dynasty Warriors 2 at launch. I didn't buy a PS2 for Tekken. I didn't buy a PS2 for Street Fighter EX. Dude, I bought that piece of shit system that had like no games for the longest time for Princess Mononoke of all things. And that was a DVD. And the only way you can get that DVD was like, or only if you had a DVD player, right? To me, it's always been in service of what it's providing. What I'm going to say is that everything since then, and every time a console comes out after the age of like my mid-teens, unless the console is doing something genuinely new and incredible, like a Dreamcast, getting people online for the first time on a console at home for the most part, and, you know, providing arcade experiences at home that are actually better, it's insanely transformative, right? Which is why I love the Dreamcast. The PS2, I play games. And that's what I'm here to say. I have been stuck in this controversy in the past. I am reliving this shit all over again 13 years later. And I'd like to remind you there was a certain game that came out 13 years ago that got a bunch of hate and a bunch of vitriol and all this shit because the game was effectively jumping systems, and that was Bayonetta 2. And in my eyes, it was like, well, this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Nintendo's help. So, I mean, why do we give a shit?
Literally fuming with absolute disappointment right now. Bayonetta 2, Wii 2 only. Bayonetta 2 is a Wii U exclusive? Motherfucker!
I mean, I get it. I didn't even have a Wii U at the time, personally. But it was like, yeah, that was one thing that made me want to get it because, well, Bayonetta 2's going to be on the system, so I'm going to get it, you know? That has obviously, like, changed in many ways over the years, but, like, a lot of people were genuinely pissed off that Bayonetta was going to be leaving the Xbox 360, Xbox 360, and, like, PlayStation. And I'm like, who cares? If it wasn't for these guys, it wouldn't exist. That is my echoing sentiment forever. And that is the way I think about games. So for anybody that's wondering, Am I leaning towards PlayStation? Am I leaning towards Xbox? Am I leaning towards Nintendo? And I'm going to tell you, yes, I lean hard towards Xbox when they do something really cool like Hi-Fi Rush or like bring back Killer Instinct. That company's fucking awesome. They have not been awesome specifically, but now they're doing stick, and I can't wait to get it on my Xbox. I don't care, right? Microsoft doing great. Same exact thing for PlayStation. If PlayStation shows up in a few months and they're like, hey, dude, here's some crazy exclusive fighting game, and here's a Bloodborne remake. Bam. Oh my God, I cannot believe how goated Sony is. They've been listening the whole time. All those dumbass decisions they've been doing for the past, 5-7 years, this entire console generation, man, it makes up for how badass this moment is. Sony goated. And in the exact same vein of Nintendo, it's like, bam, I cannot believe that, that I ever doubted this Switch 2 thing, because we now have Smash Brothers and let's just say something else that's incredible. I don't know, Daytona USA 99 or some wild ass thing that's only on that system. What I'm trying to tell you is I only give a shit about games. I give a shit about games and the creative forces that are behind those games and what their intentions are. Because in the same way, I'm going to talk mad shit about every single one of these companies, every single one of these pieces of hardware, because the hardware doesn't mean dick to me. The game on the hardware is the most important part. I mean, to be real, you can tell me that the new Smash Brothers only renders at 1080p and they're upscaling it, and, but it has all these extra features compared to the previous Smash and they're trying to upgrade it. And it's like, well, even if it has less characters, they're doing something new. I'm down for that, man. I'm down for a new experience. A lot of people will be upset. They'll be super upset. But for me, it's like I kind of want just the new experiences, even if they don't look necessarily as good as the others. And the Switch 2 is the best example of it, because it's not going to be on par with like an Xbox Series X, maybe not even a Series S, or what is currently in like PlayStation 5 lineups. But it doesn't matter, because Nintendo has almost historically never made their money, going back maybe until the 80s, off of their hardware being like incredibly superior. It's always been either a gimmick or the fact that their first-party lineup is, like, unbeatable. And it has its entire ecosystem that exists completely and almost separately from the rest of the video game industry. And yeah, that's the shit that I want to play too. That's the shit that I want to get into as well. I will always be in service of games, period. And this is hopefully consistent messaging for me over these years. Because as much as people want to label you in one way or the other, I am going to talk shit about the absolute abhorrent management decision-making going on at like Xbox, much less PlayStation, and how this generation feels like it's mostly lost and an extension of the previous generation in just many ways. I'm always going to make fun of the fact that all my Nintendo hardware seems to fuck up in some way. The fact that like, oh, we're paying these high premiums for all this extremely high crafted Nintendo hardware and it always breaks. So I'm always going to make fun of them for that, dude, personally speaking. And the fact that Nintendo, a company that has so much money, a war chest, that is full of so many billions of dollars, and all of a sudden you'll look at some of the games and you don't necessarily see where that money is going sometimes. And it could be kind of like, so what? Huh? Well, why does a Mario Party take that long to make? So there'd be some genuine questions on my end. I have zero console allegiance because I will just absolutely suck any system dry as soon as it puts out a game that I love. And I have been that way consistently, Chad, going all the way back to a point where I have very little money and I'm working for like approximately $6 an hour. But I imported and learned Japanese and did all this shit to play Final Fantasy XI early. And I wanted to commit to doing that. So at that point, I pretty much only played games on PC for like the longest time, until something came out on console, and now all of a sudden I'm a console player. I can't help it. In the vein of what's happening with FF7 Rebirth and the PS5 Pro, I think the PS5 Pro gave me something for a very short period of time that made me quite happy. And I don't mind it, because it's also going to give me other games that are most likely going to be exclusive to PlayStation 5 for a little bit, and give me some games that'll be nice to look at least in their best form that they can be at the time. Ultimately speaking, a lot of this stuff is going multi-platform. All I'm going to tell you is that the way the industry is going right now, it makes no goddamn sense for things to be exclusive anymore. The only company that makes sense for is Nintendo. They're the only ones. And the only reason is that has been their MO for like 30 to 40 years. It's just what they do. And even in their case, a lot of people wish some of those games would come to PC in some way. They would do so much better. What I'm trying to tell you is that, again, I'm in complete service of games. Execution of games, I have no allegiance to hardware, man. I don't give a shit. It was a point where when all this stuff is going down, where it's like, kiss your PS5, burn your PS5, you know, because the whole point of the system was just to give me FF7 Rebirth that looks better and plays better, and now that's gone because the PC version's actually way better than the PS5. I am not allegiant to the PC version of games either, because you know what? PC games also fucking suck. Let's be completely honest here, dude. All the games that we know, love, and play, the majority of them that are not like indie games, are made on PlayStation 5s. Almost everything in this industry is made on a PS5 and designed for specifically PS5 hardware. So when that shit gets put over to PC, much less to Xbox or other consoles, there's a lot of issues that come as a result of that, dude. Like, most games now, it's a toss-up if this shit is going to run good. FF7 Remake, a wonderful example of that. Dragon's Dogma 2 at launch, a wonderful example of that. Most games that you're like, yeah, here comes the PC version. A lot of Capcom games in those early days were rough, dude. Some Resident Evils had terrible frame pacing and shit. It's like, ugh. And you kind of have to rely on fans to fix stuff. That has not changed. So to be real, Max isn't a Nintendo, a Sony, or an Xbox, right? I'm not, until I am. The same thing applies to PC, 100%. Because PC games, you would think that like a modern, some of the best in class, like AMD CPU and like a 4090, you can just throw that shit at any game and it's just going to run amazing. No, that's not the case. That's why PC sucks. That's why having PC is like a customizable experience that I enjoy. I don't mind this stuff because I've been doing it forever, but getting in and figuring out and making the game optimize and running well for my hardware is something I don't mind doing. But some people just absolutely hate that shit. I'm friends with them. So of course they're going to want console just because the console is the way it is. And to be fair, there has been several console games that are also on PC over the past 5 to 10 years that just run better on console as well. Doesn't make any sense. The PC hardware is so much better, but games are not designed to fully optimize and utilize all of what PC hardware has. So, what I'm saying is that I'm not even beholden to PC, dude. I'm just beholden to the game, and whatever way that game is being provided to me, if I'm into it, if that game is running the best on whatever the hell it is, I'm just playing it on that. And I love this system right now. This system, this PC, whatever, this old system, has given me a reason to fire it up and play it. Because I'm not just going to turn that bitch on without any effort. What do I look like? Bitch made shit? Don't answer that. I'm not going to turn on any of these systems unless they give me a reason to. In the same vein, it's always going to be a game. It's going to be a game that doesn't. I don't give a shit about the console. The only time I did was for the Dreamcast, and I still do. Because I still think the Dreamcast, for what it did in the era it came out, and how it executed those concepts, is something that I will be defending. But another thing I have to say, that doesn't come without caveats, as well as it had a whole bunch of issues and a whole bunch of missteps. What I'm also trying to tell you, and this is just a basic lesson from somebody that is 22 years old and has seen a lot in his life and has been around this industry for like 16, 17 years. All I'll tell you is that thing you love the most in your life, the thing that is like absolutely infallible, is actually not perfect. And if you're able to recognize that some of those things that are not perfect about it, it'll take the other things that are so exemplary about that game, that movie, that experience, that person, that bring it to the front, that make you realize why you love it, why you love that, or why you love them. This applies to people too. I think that is actually loving something, is looking at it, identifying that there are several things, like 9 out of 10 things that are incredible, but maybe a few that aren't exactly perfect, but that does not remove from your overall impression of that experience. And I could say the same shit about Bloodborne, Final Fantasy VII, if we're staying in this space, the Dreamcast, all that shit. And also the same thing for like a lot of people in life, and why their imperfections are not the things that define them. It's all the stuff that you love about them being in your life. To be real, for the people that are just like absolutely, when you have somebody that is just, for any piece of media, full bore, just constant either negativity stream or constant positivity stream, one way or the other, it usually feels pretty disingenuous to me. Because even in a situation of Final Fantasy VII Remake and FF7 Rebirth, games that I really enjoy playing related to what's happening right now, dude, I'm able to call out the things that I don't love about it. I'm able to call out the things that I hope get fixed in the next game, because I think that's actually productive. So that's where I feel on anybody that's like big hardcore into defending Sony or Xbox or Nintendo, just completely like into it. I really disconnect with people like that. And it's just because it's like I don't know. Like I don't know like how you can not have issues with some of these things that are going on in the industry, much less have issues with what they're doing with their games when things are obviously not going good. And I've run into several people like that are just like, the funny ones are the ones that can admit it, that they are that way, which is a situation of like, hey, you're able to realize that you are that way, which is important. They're like, yeah, I'm kind of just going to buy this shit no matter what, and I can't help it because I love it. It's like, well, okay, you know what, cool. That you have identified that you are that way, and it's kind of like a caveat about your personality. That's some self-awareness. It's the people that are just completely unaware and just all chips in on the PlayStation defining what your personality is, you know? All I'll say is that finding flaws in the things you love doesn't make you love it less, it makes you love it more. And me being absolutely committed to any console out there right now just doesn't exist, man. But when these companies do things that is good, and it actually is competitive, and it tries to offer experiences that are really good for people that have less money, it tries to offer experiences and give games into directions that haven't existed before, to populate communities that should have this up, especially for fighting games, which I'm really going to preach, then yes, I will be like, this is awesome. And it's going to really make it seem like I am an Xbox, a PlayStation dweeb, or a Nintendo, or whatever the hell we want to call it. It will. But all I'll tell you is that I'm going to try to be fair and critical for most of this stuff and call out my own personal biases as a bias, where it's like, yeah, I'm just into this shit. You should know that. Hey, if you're kind of into this shit as much as I am, then oh boy, we're going to get along pretty well. But not everything's absolutely perfect. That's my whole take on this entire console war thing. And I'm just going to tell you, man, I poked the bear a little bit with this PS5 Pro thing. Just even exhuming a little bit of excitement that FF7 Rebirth could run better on a PS5 Pro, and getting a ton of wild shit, to the point where I follow it up with the exact opposite. PS5 Pro, FF7 Rebirth Pro, going in the trash. It's over. To so many people that completely come across as in the exact same way, which makes it really feel like people just want to be mad. All I'm going to say is that the thumbnail of this video is going to have every single console in a trash can. Straight up. It's going to have a Nintendo console, it's going to have a PC, it's going to have a PS5, and it's going to have all... The thumbnail is just going to be me, like, with a console war and 4 trash cans and a consoles in every single trash can until they're elevated. And I'm just going to rotate that thumb of like, oh, being super happy. Ooh, like all these systems, Xbox, ooh, I love them all. They're all doing great big stuff. But that's the way I operate. Everyone's wondering, hey, which stance does Max actually take on this? Before he keeps flip-flopping. Oh, I'm going to flip-flop, you weird dastardly bitch. I'm going to flip-flop till the cows come home.
What the fuck?
And it actually is competitive, and it tries to offer experiences that are really good for people that have less money. It tries to offer experiences and give games into directions that haven't existed before, or to populate communities that should have this up, especially for fighting games, which I'm really going to preach. Then yes, I will be like, this is awesome. And it's going to really make it seem like I am an Xbox, PlayStation 3, or Nintendo, or whatever the hell we want to call it. They will. But all I'll tell you is that I'm going to try to be fair and critical. biases as a bias. When it's like, yeah, I'm just into this shit. You should know that. And if you're kind of into this shit as much as I am, then oh boy, we're going to get along pretty well. But not everything's that beautiful. That's my whole take on this entire console war thing. And I'm just going to tell you, man, I poked the bear a little bit with this PS5 Pro thing. Just even exhuming a little bit of excitement that FF7 Rebirth could run better on a PS5 Pro and getting a ton of wild shit. To the point where I follow it up with the exact opposite. PS5 Pro, FF7 Rebirth Pro, going in the trash. It's over. There's so many people that completely come across this in the exact same way, which makes it really feel like people just want to be mad. All I'm going to say is that the thumbnail of this video is going to have every single console in a trash can, straight up. It's going to have a Nintendo console, it's going to have a PC, it's going to have a PS5, and it's going to have all... The thumbnail is just going to be me, like, with a console war and 4 trash cans and a console in every single trash can until they're elevated. And I'm just going to rotate that thumb of like, oh, and be super happy. Ooh, like, all these systems, Xbox, and love it all. All these good stuff. But that's the way I operate. Everyone's wondering, hey, which stance does Max actually take on this before he keeps flip-flopping? Oh, I'm going to flip-flop, you weird dastardly bitch. I'm gonna flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck?
인정하는 거예요?
넌좀 빠져.
Yeah, flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck? Dastardly bitch. I'm gonna flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck?
인정하는 거예요?
넌좀 빠져.
Yeah, flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck? Dastardly bitch. I'm gonna flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck?
인정하는 거예요?
여긴 생존자들의 집이라는 거주지였어. 흔적들을 봤을 때 꽤나 오래 방치된 것 같아.
그런데 어째서 온기가
뭐? 한번 뒤져보자고.
Yeah, flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck? Dastardly bitch. I'm gonna flip-flop till the cows come up. What the fuck?
Oh my god, is it gonna keep looping? Oh man, it's absolutely gonna keep looping until that audio stops. Oh my god, is it gonna keep looping?
마더스피어의 구원을 아직 기다리고 있는 거야.
Oh man, it's absolutely gonna keep looping until that audio stops.
마더스피어를 보내주고 싶어.
내가 도울게.
저도.
모두 고마워.
그건 기타라는 악기야. 구애를 위해 만들어진 유서 깊은 물건이지.
이건 피아노라고 했나?
맞아. 여기 사람들에겐 음악이 큰 위안이었나 봐.
여기서 잠을 잤던 것 같아.
좋은 꿈을 꾸기엔 어려웠겠는데. 기껏 벗어난 것이 또 하수도야?
마치 마트로시카 같아.
마트... 뭐? 강해지고 있어.
침식의 근원에 가까워지고 있는 것이.
저것 봐, 이브. 이 구식 발전기는 아직 작동하는 모양인데. 이걸로 리프트가 작동하겠고. 질색인데.
왜?
영화 본 적 없어? 이건 이벤트 트리거라고. 리프트를 다시 가동시켜보자. 갑자기 너무 조용한데?
아까 강화스쿼드 채널에서 들렸던 노이즈 말인데요.
응?
그게 패턴을 분석해봤는데 이런 문장이었어요. 날 죽여줘.
침식의 근원에 도착해보면 알 수 있겠지. 무슨 뜻인지.
쉽지 않은 상대였어. 괜찮은 거지, 이봐?
그래, 계속하자.
루트 없는 리프트 루트라.
왜?
아니, 배드엔딩 루트 같아서 말이야. 이런, 물에 잠겨있잖아.
또야? 스캔을 해보자.
게이트는 총 3군데야. 근데 이것저것 많은데?
출구를 찾는 게 먼저야.
고장난 문은 미련을 버리라고. 헤엄치는 건 왜 싫어하는 거야?
글쎄, 태어날 때의 기억이 떠오른다고나 할까. 기본적으로 지상의 물은 오염되어 있으니까.
우리 몸에도 좋을 일은 없겠지. 이 드론도 돌아오면 청소할 생각에 앉지라네.